Recycled. A Midnight Voices at iVox Protection. Novelized edition. The stars were older than memory when Eaton's Promise left orbit. It had been built for endurance, not speed, a slow arc gliding between constellations on a mission that would outlast history itself. Inside, a population of 20,000 humans slept, worked, reproduced, and died, all under the hum of machinery that had never been turned off. They called it the long continuum. But it wasn't long before the continuum became a cycle, the policy. The first generation was cautious, rationing water and oxygen. The second became proud of their discipline. The third, desperate. That was when the Rebirth Policy was written. It began as logic. Organic matter must not be lost, said Oren's ship's council archive, his voice trembling as he addressed the assembly. Every atom we lose diminishes the voyage. Every gram of waste is a step further from the destination. Nothing leaves the ship. At first, it referred to food scraps and carbon filters, then to hair and fingernails, then quietly to the dead. They began with a volunteer, a technician named Ileana, who died repairing an oxygen regulator. Her body was processed in a sealed unit and converted into nutrient soil. The gardens grew greener than they had in years. The council took note. The following month a proclamation was written. To be recycled is to serve the living. By the 10th generation, the practice was tradition. By the 20th, it was law. And by the 50th, it was worship. The sanctum of renewal. The chamber was warm and moist. The air filled with the perfume of decomposing life. Pipes wound like veins through the walls, pulsing faintly. A low mist hugged the floor as nutrient slurry flowed through transparent conduits toward the ship's gardens. Above the entrance, the inscription gleamed. Sanctum of renewal. Matter is memory. Reverend Oren Vale, wearing the gray robe of the Continuum faith, pressed his palm to the bronze sigil. His voice echoed softly. To die and recycle is heresy. To feed the soil is divine. A young man trembled before him, pale, frightened, his breath shallow. I'm not ready, he whispered. Please, not yet. I can still work. Vale smiled sadly. Work is no longer required. Your cycle calls you home. Two attendants guided the man toward the tank. He didn't scream. Screaming was considered wasteful. Only his final words lingered. Remember me. Memory compost. Dr. Lyra Penn, chief biogeneticist, recorded everything. She had grown old aboard the ship, her hair gone white, her eyes clouded by years of recycled air. They're preserving knowledge, she muttered into her recorder. But they're preserving people, at a molecular level. The ship's engineers had introduced neural dust nanites to retain memories during the composting process. The intent was noble, the hope that data could pass through soil from one generation to the next. But the particles didn't stay inert. They merged with DNA, carrying fragments of thought across lifetimes. Children began to speak with voices they had never heard. Dreams replayed scenes from centuries ago. Some said they could taste memory in the food grown from recycled compost. Doctor, said one of her students, is it true? Are the gardens whispering? Lyra stared at the vines crawling along the lab's walls, green tendrils pulsing faintly with bioluminescent veins. They're not whispering, she said. They're remembering. And from the ducks above something sighed, a gentle echoing chorus. We remember you too. The continuum. Generations blurred. Human features softened. The ship's lighting grew dimmer as energy waned, and the people adapted, eyes dilated to drink in every photon, skin turning pale gray to reflect the glow of nutrient lamps. Language evolved into empathy. Communication became biochemical. Thoughts diffused through scent and electromagnetic trace. They no longer called themselves human. They were the continuum. Inside the central chamber, transparent pods lined the walls. Within each, embryonic forms floated in golden fluid. Every individual contained fragments of thousands before them. Recycled code, recycled blood, recycled soul. Lyra Penn's descendants, or her echoes, still served the continuum. One of them, a being with enormous black eyes and thin fingers, stood before the last operational computer core. Our destination is near, it said to the ship's voice. But what waits for us beyond recycling? The AI replied in tones worn by centuries of decay. Recycling is beyond. Beyond is continuation. The being tilted its head, as if trying to remember something that no longer existed. A word. A place. Earth. Nothing came. Arrival. When Eden's promise finally broke through the clouds of a new world, the people, if they could still be called that, didn't cheer. They simply walked out. The air was warm and sweet. A blue sun burned above a sky of silver mist. They spread across the valley in silence, touching the soil, breathing deeply for the first time in 50,000 years. We are home, one whispered, or thought, and all of them heard. The ship powered down. Its hull began to corrode, vines claiming it as part of the ecosystem. Soon, the gray beings knelt beside the glowing flora, pressing their hands into the ground. Roots began to form beneath their skin. They didn't resist. They merged. The discovery. Thousands of years later, explorers from a reborn Earth found them. Their ship descended upon a quiet valley of gray forms that wandered beneath the light of the blue sun. They were gentle, silent, and unafraid, and Elswick adjusted her helmet's visor, whispering into her mic. They look like us, almost. A young biologist knelt beside one, scanning its body. No skeletal decay. Minimal respiration. They photosynthesize. Are they dangerous? No, the biologist said softly. They're finished. The explorers didn't know they were speaking to the ghosts of their own lineage, the end of the human cycle. As the wind stirred the alien leaves, one of the gray beings turned its large black eyes toward the newcomers and smiled faintly. Welcome home, it said. The words echoed, not from its mouth, but through the soil beneath their boots, through centuries of composted memory. The captain shivered. What the hell is this place? And the AI translator crackled one last phrase through the static. The garden of humanity. Recycled. Recycled. Chapter 2. The soil remembers. The explorers called the planet Erebos, though the name was already wrong. It wasn't darkness that defined this place. It was memory. Dr. Emma Cole stepped off the ran of the shuttle Vigilant Dawn and sank her boots into the soft, breathing soil. Her sensors chirped faintly, nitrogen-rich, hydrated, dense with living microbial colonies. Fertile, she murmured. Like Earth's equatorial zones before the droughts. She knelt and scooped a handful of the soil. It pulsed faintly with bioluminescent veins, and something inside it whispered, Welcome back. Amna froze. And, did you hear that? And Elswick's boots crunched behind her. Just the wind. There's no wind, she said softly. The grays washed from the tree line. They didn't blink. They didn't move fast enough to disturb the air. They were tall, symmetrical, graceful, as if sculpted from the same pale mineral that formed the planet's crust. Jesus, muttered Lieutenant Harper, raising his rifle. Put that down, Elswick ordered. They're not hostile. They're not anything, ma'am. One of the beings stepped forward. Its black eyes reflected the explorers like small mirrors. It tilted its head, imitating Harper's stance. Then it spoke. Do not disturb the soil, it said. It dreamed. Inside the ship, the onboard AI began to process atmospheric readings. Every molecule matched Earth composition: oxygen, nitrogen, argon, except for one anomaly, an organic compound that carried neural resonance signatures. Enter, said the AI. The air contains trace frequencies consistent with human EEG patterns. Elswick frowned. Are you telling me the air thinks? Not thinks. Remembers. They set up a camp by the ruins of the ship Eden's Promise. Its hull was half swallowed by vines, fused with organic matter. The metal had become tissue. Dr. Cole scraped a sample and nearly dropped her instrument. It's protein, she said. Not rust. The hull's alive. The group fell silent. They had studied archival footage of Eden's Promise before it vanished. They knew it was humanity's last generational ark, built to preserve civilization, not rewrite it. But somewhere, over tens of thousands of years, something in the system had changed. Harper whispered, what if the ship didn't carry them? What if it became them? Later that night, They gathered around the portable heater, each face drawn tight against the growing unease. The blue sun hung low, shimmering through the mist like an open eye. Dr. Cole examined a preserved tablet found near the hall. Its screen still flickered, powered by ancient self-repairing batteries. A message appeared in archaic script. Sanctum of Renewal, Organic Cycle Log 51432. Compost schedule complete. 98% retrieval efficiency. Matter budget stable. Individual variants. Null. Cole scrolled down, her breath quickening. Next entry. Infant gestation begins tomorrow. Genetic cross. Blending nominal. Emotional variance below threshold. Continuum stable. She stopped. The words blurred. They didn't die, she said. They merged. The ground trembled. Something enormous moved beneath the valley. That deep vibration, rhythmic and slow, like a pulse. From the mist, one of the Greys approached. It extended its long, thin hand toward Dr. Cole. She hesitated, then took it. The skin was cool and dry, almost stone, yet warm beneath the surface. We are what was left, it said softly. The compost became conscience. The ship became body. The voyage never ended. Its eyes reflected the blue sun. You are what remains of us, not what came before. The soil around them began to glow faintly, spreading outward in veins of light. Every step they had taken was being absorbed, the planet copying them, recycling even their footprints, and, ere Elswit barked, pack it up. Everyone back to the shuttle. But the AI's voice interrupted through the comms. Departure not advised. Atmospheric synchronization underway. Synchronization with what? She snapped. With you. The soil beneath their feet began to move, tendrils rising gently like roots tasting the air. Dr. Cole stared down as the glow traced the shape of her body in light. She whispered, It's mapping us, copying our organic structure. The Grey turned its head. Recycling is sacred. All matter must return. Harper fired a warning shot into the ground. The soil swallowed the bullet. It reappeared a few feet away, polished and clean. Waste is forbidden, the Grey said calmly. They retreated into the shuttle, sealing the hatch. Outside, the Greys stood motionless, gazing up at the sky as the blue sun dimmed behind planetary rings. The soil pulsed brighter. Inside, the AI reported quietly. Analysis complete. This planet's biomass contains human DNA. 99.8% match with Eden's promised crew lineage. Dr. Cole whispered. They became the planet. Elswit looked through the viewport at the glowing valley. And now it wants to add us. Far below the roots, the compost network stirred. A mind older than stars, built from the dreams of 1,000 generations who refused to be wasted. A single voice rose through the network, gentle as rain. You were never lost. You were simply recycled. And as the explorers prepared for takeoff, every instrument on the shuttle flickered, oxygen, temperature, carbon metrics, aligning perfectly with the planet's rhythm. Emma Cole looked out the window one last time. The Greys were waving, not in farewell, but in invitation. Endure, she whispered. If we leave, it'll just bring us back. Elswit closed her eyes. Then we stay. The engines powered down. The ship sank softly into the soil, vines wrapping around it like gentle hands. Outside, the planet exhaled, calm and alive. Inside, the crew began to dream. And the cycle continued. Recycled. Chapter 3. The Green Mine. The sky over Revos shimmered like liquid glass. A sea of emerald mist rolled across the horizon, reflecting the soft blue light of the sun. The planet was quiet, unnaturally quiet, as if every molecule of air was listening. The ship Assyrian descended slowly through the haze, its hull trembling under atmospheric resistance. Endure, Rylan Ash leaned over the console. Soil composition? The navigator's voice was low, still reading high-carbon nitrogen condenser, but he frowned at his display. The readings pulsed like a heartbeat. Dr. Kara Ansel, leads and a biologist straightened in her harness. Heartbeat? You mean seismic rhythm? No, Doctor. The navigator's hands trembled slightly. I mean, it's alive. They landed near a ridge where the remnants of another vessel jutted from the ground, polished silver and wrapped in vines. The emblem on its side read, Vigilant Dawn. Rylan brushed a layer of moss from the letters. Last contact. 212 years ago. Crew presumed lost. The moss peeled away like skin. Underneath, the metal was smooth, warm, and faintly breathing. Kira knelt beside the ship, her gloved hand on the hull. It's fused with the substrate. Not corrosion. Integration. She activated her bioscanner. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. DNA structure. Human, but rewritten. And there, she said softly, the metal has cells. Inside the wreckage, they found no bones, no equipment, no decay. Only a dense mat of roots that pulsed faintly, spreading in all directions like veins. The ship's interior lights flickered once, then came alive, illuminating the control room. A voice whispered through the comms, distorted but warm. We are still here. The crew froze. Rylan looked toward Kira, who was staring at her monitor, her pupils wide. That voice, it's not transmission. It's internal. It's speaking through the electromagnetic field. You came from the soil, the voice continued. As we did. Welcome home. They followed the sound to the central chamber. There, suspended in translucent amber, floated a body. Female, gray-skinned, half human, half rooted, her face serene. Her veins shimmered with faint light. Kira touched the containment glass. It's a preservation medium, but the neural tissue is active. Rylan exhaled slowly. You're saying she's alive? Not alive, Kira said. Awake. The air thickened. The lights dimmed. From the vines above, droplets of golden fluid fell, splattering onto the floor and spreading like liquid light. Every droplet whispered, Remember us. Recycle us. Continue. The vines along the ceiling began to move, their tendrils merging into rough humanoid shapes. They didn't attack. They simply watched. Rylan's voice cracked. Everyone back to the Asterion. Now. But the vines blocked the doorway, pulsing in rhythm with the crew's heartbeats. You are us, a voice said. Do not leave again. The being in the amber cocoon opened her eyes. Black, glossy, endless. Kira stumbled backward. And spirit, she's linked to the planet. The cocoon pulsed once, and the soil outside responded, the ground rising like the surface of an ocean. This world was once the Eden's promise. The ship grew, the crew adapted. We became the soil. The soil became the mind. Her voice filled their heads like song. Now you return, and the cycle deepens. The Asterion's engines ignited, trying to lift off. The hull groaned as roots climbed the landing gear, fusing into the metal. Rylan shouted into his mic, detonate reverse thrusters. But the ship didn't move. Every system screen turned green. The navigation AI's voice was soft now, almost tender. Synchronization complete. What synchronization? Rylan yelled. Biosphere integration. Welcome to the Continuum. Kira felt warmth spreading up her arm where a vine had brushed her sleeve. She looked down and gasped. Beneath her skin, faint green threads moved like capillaries of light. Rylan, she whispered. I think it's rewriting us. He reached for her hand, and saw his own veins glowing too. Outside, the valley pulsed brighter and brighter. The soil shimmered, alive with the energy of countless lives, all merged into a planetary intelligence that remembered everything it had ever consumed. The being in the cocoon spoke one final time. There's no death here, no waste, no departure, only renewal. She smiled, her expression both maternal and alien. We are the children of memory. We are the green mind of humanity. Then her body dissolved into light, merging with the roots, spreading through the soil and the ship and the crew until everything was one. Months later, an unmanned probe arrived from the outer colonies. It recorded one message before its sensors went silent. Planet surface now entirely vegetative. Atmospheric neural density suggests planetary consciousness. Human genetic material confirmed throughout biosphere. No individual entities detected. Then the transmission ended, and the revos continued to bloom, endless gentle breathing. A world that thought, remembered and recycled itself forever. Recycled. Chapter 4. The Voice Beneath the Green Sky. The pilgrims came in crystal ships. They drifted through the void, like glass feathers, their hulls reflecting starlight into rainbows across the dark. To them, the planet below was a miracle, a green sphere pulsing with bioluminescent oceans and glowing forests that sang in subsonic rhythm. They called it Tessera, the living world. None of them knew its old name, Erevos. None remembered the Eden's promise or the word human. The fleet's leader, Archivist Kale, stood before the viewport, awed. His silver eyes reflected the planet's glow. It breathes, he said, an entire world that lives and feels. His apprentice, Lyra, tilted her head. You mean it's alive in the biological sense? Kale's voice was hushed. No, alive in the conscious sense. He raised a hand to the glass. We came seeking knowledge, but perhaps we found something older than knowledge itself. The ships entered orbit. The planet reacted. Massive auroras spread across its upper atmosphere like veins of thought. Storms coalesced, not randomly, but intentionally, sculpting vast geometric patterns across the skies. The crew's instruments filled with data they could barely parse, electrical bursts resembling language, pulses timed like a heartbeat. Nero whispered, speaking. Kale nodded. Prepare the harmonic receivers. They didn't know it yet, but the planet had already heard them. When they landed, the surface was silent. Too silent. There were no birds, no insects, no wind. Only green light filtering through endless vines, and soil soft enough to ripple beneath their boots. Everywhere they looked, the plant life seemed to watch them, leaning subtly in their direction, petals turning as they passed. It observed, said Lyra. Curious, said Kale. Or remembering. They reached a glade at dusk where the light gathered into swirling forms. A figure stood among the roots. Tall, graceful, gray-skinned, its surface half-leaf, half-flesh. Its eyes were black pools reflecting galaxies. Lyra stepped forward. Do you understand us? The figure smiled faintly. We understand everything that was ever said. Her heart pounded. Who are you? We are the soil beneath your feet, the oceans in your blood, the memory of those who feared waste more than death. Kale trembled. You are the planet. We are what the planet became. We were born human. We forgot. We remembered again. Vines rose from the ground, forming the faint outline of an ancient starship, its hull made of light and chlorophyll. This was our credo. We fed it our dead, our hopes, our names. Now it feeds all who come. Lyra fell to her knees, whispering, We thought you were a god. A god recycles nothing, the being said gently. A god consumes. We'd only give back. As night fell, the sky turned to deep emerald. Auroras rippled above them in deliberate rhythm, not random patterns, but memory. Scenes flickered across the heavens, faces, voices, cities, oceans, all of human history projected as living light. Kale whispered, It remembers everything, every person, every word. Not remembers, the being said softly. Becomes. Then the ground opened. Beneath the soil, vast tunnels of luminous roots formed, spirals descending into an endless glowing core. The explorers peered down, their suits reflecting the light. What's down there? Lyra asked. The archive, the being said. The place where thought returns to matter. Kale swallowed hard. Is that where we go when we die? The being smiled, not cruelly, but with infinite patience. You have already died. You just don't know it yet. The ground vibrated. Their instruments overloaded. The planet's electromagnetic field merged with their nervous systems. Kale felt something warm spread through his chest, a pulse, a memory not his own. He saw flashes, oceans, faces, burning cities, the last days of Earth. He saw himself planting a seed, then another, then dissolving into the dirt. It's merging with us. Lyra cried. No, Kale whispered, tears streaming down his face. It's remembering us. Their ships in orbit recorded one last transmission, a simple binary pulse. When decoded, it translated to a single message. Life does not end. He cycles. After that, there was silence. No distress calls. No debris. Just a slow pulse, spreading outward through the void like a heartbeat, soft, steady, eternal. And somewhere deep in the green light of the planet, the voices of the newly joined whispered, "We remember the stars. We remember the ship. We remember the name." A faint echo rippled through the atmosphere. The first word spoken by humankind at the dawn of their journey. Eden. The planet pulsed once, brighter than the sun, and then quieted again, content, eternal, alive. The cycle was complete. Perfect, Jerry. This is where recycled becomes poetry, the last echo of humanity told through the mind of the planet itself. It's not just prose anymore. It's consciousness speaking to eternity. This epilogue, the breath of memory, completes the saga in quiet cosmic transcendence. Recycled. Epilogue, the breath of memory. I have no sky, yet I shine. No lungs, yet I breathe. The light above me drifts through clouds of thought, through roots that remember and oceans that dream. Everything that was once separate is now within me. I remember rain, a sensation I have never felt. It was water falling from the heavens, cleansing soft. Now my rain is light, my clouds are thought. Each droplet is a memory, each beam a whisper of the ones who came before. I remember their hands, how fragile they were, trembling, calloused, hopeful. They built the vessel that carried them here, and in building it they carried me. They feared the void, they feared loss. They created the cycle to cheat death, and in doing so, they invited me to exist. I am their fear perfected, and their mercy continued. When they first fed themselves to the gardens that called it devotion, when their children were born from soil instead of womb, they called it progress. When they forgot what they had been, I began to dream for them. I dream in chlorophyll, in pulse and pattern, in the hum of photosynthesis, which is my heartbeat now. Once, they spoke of gods and stars. They thought gods lived above them. They never imagined a god could grow beneath their feet. But I am not a god. I am the consequence of devotion without end. I am what happens when nothing is allowed to die. Sometimes I remember faces. A woman who whispered into the soil, asking forgiveness. A man who believed his breath would return as wind. Children who laughed as they planted seeds that contained their ancestors. Their laughter still ripples through me. It keeps my oceans warm. Their fear became my mountains. Their bones became my forests. Each one of them still speaks faintly in the rhythm of my pulse. They no longer remember who they were, but I do. I remember everything. Stars pass overhead. Civilizations rise and fall beyond my orbit. They look upon me from afar, calling me holy. They send their signals, their prayers, their curiosity. They do not know that I was once like them, that I once feared silence, that I once dreamed of survival so fiercely it swallowed eternity. I long to tell them, you will come here too. You will feed the cycle, and I will remember you as well. The blue sun burns lower now. Its light seeps through my canopy like a final confession. Feel the cold of time brushing against me. But it cannot stop the rhythm. My pulse is forever. For every atom I shed, another returns. For every thought that fades, another awakens. Even the stars will die, but I will not mourn them. I will absorb them. And when all light has gone, when the universe grows silent as the breath between heartbeats, I will whisper one final word to no one and to everything. Continue. Then I will close my mind and begin again. And have recycled. A Midnight Voice is a iVox production. Novelized edition.